Hello and welcome to this week's GG Weekend Watch. We're sorry, Jumps fans, but we are still talking flat just for the time being, despite us having the seasonal opener at Chepstow on Friday and Saturday, of course, as well. But we still have top class action to be looking ahead to at Newmarket and York. And I will be looking ahead to these races in the company of Andrew Mount and Rob Plumbridge again, because Daryl Carter is still earning a very well-deserved break as he is currently on holiday. Will be back soon. But the lads have done very well anyway, with plenty of winners last week. So just to rattle through the winners from last week before we get stuck into the action for this week proper. So last week, Andrew, he had Uffington placed at 50 to 1 in the October auction stakes. Ashdad placed at 22 to 1 in the Challenge Cup. And Andrew won the Arc when tipping up Alpinista at 4 to 1. Rob, he managed to tip up Amici to win the October auction stakes at 5 to 2. Rohan at 3 to 1 to win the Bengoff stakes. And Washington Heights placed at 12 to 1 in the 2-year-old trophy. And of course, I have to include myself in this because I have to feel like I'm keeping up to even just the smallest bit of level with the lads as well. So I did also tip up Alpinista to win the Arc at 4 to 1. So I'm going to give myself credit on that basis as well. But we're going to move on then to this week's racing, where we begin with the Group 3 Zetland Stakes for 2-year-olds over a mile 2 at 150 at Newmarket, where Flying Honours is your market leader at 5 to 4. So Rob, over to you to get us started, please.
Yeah, Flying Honours is going to have his supporters, isn't he? He's very, very strong in the market. Loads to recommend him. Very strange race he was in Newmarket though last time. It was one of those tricky forerunner affairs. It got a little bit tactical. And it was just enough to put him off me at the prices. He has looked classy previously, but I just thought he threw his toys out the pram and folded very tamely last time, in my view. Anyway, so I was happy to take him on at 5 to 4. The one without being super strong on anything, the one that I was keen to take him on with was Dear My Friend from Mark Johnston's. Looks sort of a typical Johnston front runner. I think if he can bounce out the stall 9, get his own way in front like he did around sort of 3 starts ago where he hacked up by 5 lengths, I thought he might take a bit of stopping and a bit of passing. And if Flying Honours doesn't have that sort of attitude to go and catch him and get down to the nitty gritty, I thought Dear My Friend might be able to sort of last it out and pull this out of the bag. So that's where I landed without being very strong on anything.
Yeah, like you say, tricky race to have a real strong opinion on, but Flying Honours does look pretty short, like say, on the basis of last time out at 5 to 4. So 7 to 1 for Dear My Friend looks a very feasible bet then for Rob. Andrew, do you agree, or are you playing it differently?
Yeah, funnily enough, I'm almost word for word in agreement with Rob here.
Aha, copy and paste.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Racing Post ratings. You've got Flying Honours on 117, £14 clear of Dear My Friend and Liftoff, for both in turn £7 clear of the rest. So you're thinking, well, it's a sort of a 1-horse race or a sort of 3-horse race at the absolute best. But that Flying Honours run last time out, a little bit underwhelming. We've seen time and time again those patient tactics at Newmarket on the rolling mile don't always work. And we know Mark Johnson does extremely well at Newmarket on both tracks, and most of his winners do win from the front, often when getting on that favoured rail and and making more. Now we've got the stalls on the stand side. The last Newmarket meeting they were in the middle, but towards the end of the meeting they were converging towards the stand side. It did seem to be a case of the higher the draw, the better. So you've got Richard Kingscote. I mean, admittedly, Dear My Friend hasn't been making the running in his recent starts, but did win from the front at Beverley under Franny Norton earlier in the season. So you think Richard Kingscote, well known as a front running jockey, stall 9 of 9, Mark Johnson bang on the rail. He's just going to ping and go, isn't he? So I think if you're going to have a bet, back Dear My Friend each way, maybe lift off each way, and just hope the favourite is a bit of a thinker and has got a bit of a chink in his armour as he displayed here last time.
Yeah, well, like I say, 12 to 1 then for Liftoff, and also 7 to 1 then for Dear My Friend. Both of those two worth chancing at those prices, like you say, should there be a chink in Flying Honours armoury, which he's shown that there is. So worth taking on at that price. Both lads in agreement there in our opening race. We head to York now for the listed Rockingham Stakes for 2-year-olds over 6 furlongs at 205, where we have a strong favourite in the form of Alpha Capture, heading the market as the 15 to 8 favourite. So Andrew, more 2-year-olds here. Do you take on the favourite again?
Yeah, this is easy. Just back every horse to level stakes. He'd done that in the last 10 years. You'd made £5.25 at SP and almost 30 quid at Betfair SP. It's a bit like the Cheltenham Festival in the last few years. You know, there's a history of shocks. So, and again, a very recent run has been an advantage. 6 horses have lined up in this who'd ran in the last week. 3 of those won for a profit of 17 quid. 27 horses had raced in the last 18 days. 6 won for a profit of over £35. And last time out winners in this race are 2 from 33 in the last 10 years, minus £23.50. So it might pay to look beyond the obvious, you know, and hope for a bit of an upset here. You know, if you know, spread betting's your thing, just sort of like, you know, buying the SP of the winner. Now there were 2 that sort of caught my eye as, you know, potentially under the radar. One of them is Kaima for William Haggis, who's won this race previously. And the last time he ran at York, he was a winner at 8-1 in August on good ground. He's then gone to Kempton, all-weather debut, and run poorly, albeit in Group 3 company. And then last time out, he's gone to Chester. He's raced up with the pace, but that was a funny old Chester race where they've just gone way too fast. The pace has collapsed, and the race was run to suit the closers. So finishing 6th, being less than 3 lengths after doing way too much too soon, over 7 furlongs and coming back to 6 might be the angle here for Kaima. I haven't seen any prices, but I would imagine he's not going to be at the head of the betting. And the other one is Secret Angel, of course, and distance winner for Carl Berg. Now, again, another horse who was beaten last time out, but she ran well in defeat, finishing 5th of 12 behind Barefoot Angel in that Firth of Clyde Filly Stakes at Ayr. Now, you look at that race, it paid to come from off the pace. Barefoot Angel, believing, both ridden patiently. And, you know, if you're on the front end, you were generally sort of doing too much that day. I think they'd all seen Gale Force Mayor win earlier on the card and thought you had to be on the front end, and they went a bit mad in that race. So in finishing 5th, Secret Angel did a little bit too much on the front, too soon on the front end. Probably a run you can upgrade. It was still a fair effort given she was a 22-1 shot. So yeah, Secret Angel and Kaima for me, particularly interested in Kaima.
Poor Kaima, the bigger price as well, of which at 20-1. So yeah, we don't mind that whatsoever. Then for Kaima, Secret Angel though, still a fair price at 14-1 with that course and distance win to her name as well. So Andrew is swinging for the fences here. Rob, are you going down the same route?
No, I'm not. I'm going complete opposite route. I really like the favourite here. I thought the form of his last run's working out incredibly well. He was a short head second to Cold Case, who won last weekend by 2.5 lengths in a similar event. The 4th that day was Galeron, who's come out and won the Goffs Million very, very nicely indeed. It's the same connections as last year's winner for William Haggis and Tom Marquand. I thought it's just all the forms there in the book. I thought it's the right connections. He seems versatile ground-wise. He's won on good to firm. He's won on good to soft. So that's not going to be an issue. And yeah, I was really keen on him. Honourable mention to Bolt Action, who won the other day. He's almost guaranteed to run his race. You'll get a run for your money if you back him, but he is more exposed than the others. And Alpha Capture was the one that I really liked in this.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, fair enough. Case made well. The beauty of difference of opinions in this game is exemplified by the pair of lads then in that race. Right, we're back to Newmarket now for another Group 3 in the form of the Autumn Stakes for, surprise, 2-year-olds over a mile at 2:25. A smaller field though for this race, just the 6 declared though. So Rob, who takes your fancy?
Yeah, I thought this was very, very tricky, actually. There's lots of sort of tie-in form here with the Dewhurst, with Silver not getting beat by Chaldine last time and Holloway Boy beaten by the favourite Nostrum. So this will tie into your bets later on in the day. I didn't think the ground went right for Silver Knot last time, so there's probably a reason for his disappointment in a sort of weird sort of three runner race. I thought he was probably the right favourite, but didn't really want to back him. Prefer him to Holloway Boy, but again, that didn't really take my eye either. I thought I'd just chance on, I can't even say, Epictetus. I think we'll go with.
Why not?
Yeah, one of them. I thought his debut win was pretty impressive. It included Flying Honours, who was 4th that day, also a debutant. He beat a few horses that had already had a run, so I thought that was quite impressive. Wouldn't be my biggest bet of the day, but I thought he was just about worth a chance maybe at 5-2 against the two more established horses on the basis that he might have more to offer and be a bit more exposed. But certainly not my strongest bet. I did find this race particularly tricky when having a look earlier, but Epictetus would be my pick.
There you go. That was said with confidence on the second time around. Anyway,
Yeah.
I've just looked up what Epictetus is. It was a philosopher, a Greek Stoic philosopher. Yeah, so there's some extracurricular reading for you. I had to look it up just to see that I wasn't going to be mispronouncing it myself. But Epictetus then for Rob, and we've done some bit of learning. Right, Andrew, provide us with any more cultural references or a winner, please.
I was half tempted by the Gosden Colt, but my inability to say his name correctly sort of made me look elsewhere.
Fair enough.
And again, I was just going to go down the Charlie and Mark Johnson, I should say, pace angle with Killybegs Warrior, who was unable to dominate when 7th of 19 behind the aforementioned Gail Ron in that current sales race last time out. Finishing respectable enough, 7th at 40-1. A couple of small field wins earlier in the season, both at Newmarket on the July course, admittedly. So 2 trips to this neck of the woods, 2 wins in small fields, still 2 of 6. But I would imagine he's going to be able to break out and get that rail. And if we're in a case, if it's a Newmarket case of strong rail bias, front runners out running their odds, then maybe he'll give us a run for our money. But like Rob, it wasn't a race I was particularly keen on.
Yeah, don't blame the pair of you, really, to be honest with you. 25-1 then for Killybegs Warrior. Another one for Johnston there. Andrew properly on the Johnston fan club at Newmarket. But like you said earlier on, the trends speak for themselves with their record at both Newmarket tracks. So it makes sense to keep them on side where you can, and especially at those prices. Right, we have a handicap up next at York in the form of a 0-110 handicap for 3-year-olds and over mile 2 at 240. Again, just the 6 declared horses here, Andrew. So how do you play this?
Yeah, this was quite an interesting race, actually, despite the small field, because as soon as you see Saga's name on a race course, you just got to think, well, I've got to have a bet if this one's at a single figure price. I can bet everything else and make money. Because Saga's are just a complete villain of a horse. Sorry, Your Majesty. Don't send me to the tower. But I know he finished second by a head at 12-1 at Royal Ascot, because didn't he? Was that in the Britannia? But my God, you put him in. You put him in anything, he's going to finish second, but not win him. And he's won once, 5-2 on in an Ascot maiden, but he's not won. I don't think he's quite right between the ears. You don't want to be taking 5-1, 11-2 about this one. Now, Marching Army and Protagonist, both front runners, and What's the Story, I think, is another one who tends to go from the front end. So despite the small field, there does seem to be quite a lot of pace in this race. And the one I was looking at was Stay Well for Hughie Morrison. A little bit of a nibble when the prices first came out, 7s into 30 into 2. Hooded for the first time. How that goes, anyone's guess. But the interesting thing about this one is that he does seem best in small fields. 3 runs in his life have all come in fields of 6 or fewer runners. Does seem to be suited by small field tactical affairs. Did win around about this time last year as well, so has been able to hold his form into the autumn. Hasn't won since gelded, but has been running in double-figure size fields in that time. So obviously first run at York, we know so many horses don't perform at this track, but at the prices, I thought he was worth chancing, particularly given that he's a hold-up horse who is going to get the race run to suit despite there being a small field.
Yeah, and I mean, his name's going to be pretty accurate here, really, isn't it, with his mile 4 form, then dropping back to the 10 furlongs as well. So yeah, stay well and to come from off of the pace in what looks likely to be a strongly run race despite the small runners, according to Andrew. Then Rob, do you agree with that, or how are you looking?
Yeah, I mean, I might have to use my pass card here because I was looking for a 3-year-old. 7 of the last 10 winners of this race have been 3-year-olds. So I thought, have a look, what's the only 3-year-old in the race?
Saga.
And I had back Saga a couple of times and been stung, and I just could not get strong on anything. Marching Army was a worthy favourite, but he won that. The last race he won was just one of those sort of, so it's like a race at Maidan where there's about 4 Godolphin runners in, and it was pick which one's going to win. And yeah. I don't think even they thought that was the one that was going to win. I think they thought Ottoman Fleet was the one. But I did think he was a worthy favourite. But like Andrew said, there's a lot of pace on everywhere. I really could not come on anything strongly or recommend anyone to be having a bet in this race. yeah, it was a no bet for me and no selection.
Yeah, get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
We need to actually make some of these and laminate them so you can hold them up at the right time for the pair of you to use. Well,
Hey, the budget doesn't go that far. We can't
No.
afford that.
who am I kidding? Lamination? What? Yeah, make your own basically. Make your own at home, and then you can hold it up and use it for next week whenever you have a race out. Yeah, don't have that stronger fancy in. Hopefully, you have a stronger fancy in our next race though, because it is the big one up next in the form of the Group 1 Dewhurst for 2-year-olds over 7 furlongs at 3 o'clock back at Newmarket. So plenty of guineas clues then for next season as well. But of course, it's a big shame that we don't get to see Sakia here because he was ruled out following a dirty scope this morning. But we still have a whole host of talented individuals. So Rob, which of these 2-year-olds is going to win?
Yeah, what a good race this is. No, I mean, Nostrum's the correct favourite, isn't he? Won very, very nicely here last time. I think that counts for a lot if they've won at the Rolling Mile. Certainly going the right way, and you know he may go and win the Guineas next year. But 6-4 wasn't for me. The thing that's really nagging me here about backing a horse at 6-4, especially in a 2-year-old race, regardless of that, is the fact that he's only had 2 runs. I think if in the Dewhurst, I would like them to have had at least 3, if not 4. So that's sort of ruled out backing me at that price, and I might go and look very, very stupid when he hacks it by 3 lengths. But I'm willing to take him on. Naval Power was also interesting, but I thought he was a little bit short of 3s. Has only really raced on quick rounds so far. Again, he might hack up by 3. There's a few of these, aren't there?
Yeah.
I was willing to take him on at 3-1, and that sort of landed me down on sort of Chaldean's a really likeable sort, but I thought there's a lot of question marks on his form. He won a very tactical 3-runner race last time, where Silver Knot, I don't think, enjoyed the ground, as I said earlier. So that wasn't strong enough for me to be backing him. So the one that I've landed on is Aesop's Fables, the No Name Never colt from Aidan O'Brien. This is a yard who really targets this race. He did have 2 entered in this. He's only gone with 1. I think that might be a little bit telling. Hated soft ground last time at the Curragh. Really, really didn't like it. I think if you put a line through that and you look at his run before that, he was staying on so powerfully in the race that he won over there. I think it was at the Curragh. Yeah, the right connections. I thought 11-2 was quite an eye-catching price for what I think could be a pretty decent horse. So yeah, he was my play.
Yeah, he's been fairly dismissed, really, hasn't he? All of a sudden, a 10-1 shot then for the Dewhurst when he looked so talented before, and you can excuse him for last time out for Rob. So Rob going with a 10-1 shot then, Andrew. Who do you side with the Dewhurst?
Yeah, hats off to Rob. He's outstatted me there because I've not looked at the Dewhurst with the number of previous runs. I've just looked in the last 10 years, and horses who'd had 2 previous runs, 0 from 15, those who'd had just the 1 run, 0 from 2. Going back to the start of the century, horses who had 2 runs, just 1 from 49. Now, their prices suggested there should have been between 5 and 6 winners. So that's statistically significant. So that lack of experience, lack of battle hardness, combined with the fact that he's trained by Sir Michael Stout, brilliant though he has been, perhaps more so than now, you do get the feeling that when his name appears against one unbeaten on the race card, you're going to be getting a point or 2 under the actual price that the horse's form suggests you should be getting. So there's and plus I know there's only 7 runners, but stall 3. This is a horse who tends to race up with the pace as well. And there's an awful lot of pace in this race, despite the small field. So you've got pace from stalls 1, stalls 2, stall 3, stall 6, and I'm just thinking if Royal Scotsman, the outside of the field, 25-1, can tuck in on that rail from stall 7 of 7, stepping up in trip for the first time. But you look at this one's form. I mean, first time up, he's run 4th to Noble Style at Ascot. We know how good that one is. He was obviously green and needed the experience. Next time, bolts up by 5 lengths at Goodwood. Then he goes to Ascot, the Royal Meeting for the Coventry Stakes, finishes 3rd to Bradsell and Persian Force. And he was a bit sort of exposed, that day, raced away from the action. Then got back to Goodwood. He's absolutely bolted up. And then last time out, he's finished well held behind Noble Style at York. But again, first time at York, again, he's been beaten at York and Ascot, 2 tracks that we've seen time and time again. Some horses just don't handle. He's away from those 2 venues. He's unbeaten in 2 starts, albeit both come at Goodwood. But you just think, well, should he be 25-1? Given that he's got that good Ascot Coventry Stakes form, He's nicely drawn. He's a hold-up horse in a race chock full of pace. And if he can just get cover on the rail, he could outrun his odds. Bit of a shame there's not a 500 to 1 shot in there as well to make it up to 8 places for eight runners for the 3 places each way. But I think I'm going to back Royal Scotsman to win. I'll probably do him to finish second in an exacta to the field as well.
Oh, like it a lot then. Different ways to play this race of a Dewhurst then. And with the outsider of the field, 25 to 1 then for Royal Scotsman. And yet again, another very good case made indeed by Andrew for the outsider of the field in that Group 1. We have another very open handicap up next in the form of the Coral Sprint Trophy handicap, a 0 to 105 heritage handicap for 3 odds and over 6 furlongs at 3:15 back at York. I'm going to start off because I like 3. I couldn't narrow them down, so I'm going to say all 3 and hope that 1 comes in. The 3 are Dusky Lord at 8 to 1, Popmaster at 16 to 1, and Volatile Analyst, last year's winner of this race, at 25 to 1, in from 40 to 1 already. Dusky Lord, because of his impressive win in the Air Silver Cup last time out, and if he can replicate that, then this £9 rise shouldn't really find him out with all variables in his favour. Again, Popmaster, because he's a cliff horse and I can't abandon him now at this stage of the season, and he remains well treated, just £1 higher than for his second in the Woking behind Rohan, who just continues to boost that form further and further. So surely Popmaster has to come good at some point. And finally, last year's winner, as I say, Volatile Analyst, who's been basically having a rubbish time of things in his last 4 starts, admittedly. But he won this last year off of a £1 lower mark. And again, he has all conditions in his favour. Of course, we've seen that winners of this race, they can go back to back in this race as well. We saw that with Gulliver in 2020 and 2019. So he looks overpriced to my eye. There's a huge 3 for me then, Andrew. So feel free to have the same amount.
Yeah, I've got 3. One of
Wonderful.
them I'm in agreement with you, and that is Volatile Analyst, who his first time he rocked up at York, he ran over a mile, he finished well beaten. But since then, he's had 2 runs here, a winner over 7 furlongs, a winner over 6 in this race last year, as you say. So just in a case of coming back to York, you can get 33 to 1 with Bet365. If you do want to have a go on that one, certainly wouldn't put you off. The others I liked are another previous winner, dual winner in the case of Gulliver. I napped this one in this race a couple of years ago, and I think he won it sort of a reasonable price to sort of get me back to level stakes for the season in the Racing Post Naps table. I'll need him to return about 100 to 1 if I'm going to be level stakes in the Racing Post Naps table, because I'm currently languishing at the bottom on minus £82.50. Now, he was well touted for this race last season when bidding for a hat-trick in it, but there was a massive draw bias that day, and when Volatile Analyst won it, you look at that, the winner came out of stall 7, the runner-ups stall 2, that was Laugh a Minute, who goes again here. And you look at those who sort of finished well beaten out with the washing, Mon Damage, stall 22, finished last. Everything that was drawn sort of 18 plus was absolutely tailed. Now, Gulliver was in stall 21, didn't have a prayer from that draw. That could be the stumbling block again, because he's got stall 22 of 22. Now, he's a real eye catcher on his penultimate start, where he ran at the Curragh in the Bold Lad handicap. It was a big advantage to be up with the pace down the middle of the track that day, and he's come from off the pace, finished a really good 6, beaten less than 2 lengths, doing second or third best of those who have ridden patiently. Next time out, he's bombed out in the Air Gold Cup, but when he won this race 2 years ago, he bombed out in the Air Gold Cup. I think when he won it 3 years ago, he went to Air and again ran poorly. So Air has never been his track. He's £8 lower than when winning it in 2020. But oh my God, what you wanted was, the dream was like stall 11 of 22, slap bang in the middle, giving him options and heavy ground. What we've got is stall 22 of 22, good ground, drying, and do you want to be where he's drawn? Possibly not. 11 to 1. Do I want to play now? Probably not. So, and the other one of interest, Bielsa. A bit of an enigma, and King Power horses are going well at the moment. And the key is the first time blinkers. Kevin Ryan with the first time headgear, he's had a lot of success, particularly with blinkers. And quirky old customer, raced solo when winning the Air Gold Cup last season, winless since. But is £1 lower than for that Air Gold Cup win. Clearly goes well this time of year. And if the blinkers set him alight, he could, a bit like Bergerac in the first time blinkers for the yard in one of these big handicaps earlier in the season, could just sort of blast him going, won't see which way he went. So yeah, I was sort of Bielsa, Volatile, Analyst, and Gulliver with a big question mark over Gulliver. So I'll go Bielsa as the main pick.
18 to 1 then for Bielsa, and like say a lower draw than Gulliver as well then for that low draw angle as well. But yeah, Bielsa, the quirky customer to return to winning ways, is the main play, but Andrew's also allowed.
Because I just for goodness sake, do not back him each way. Because with the first time blinkers, he's going to blast off down the middle. They won't see which way he went. He'll win by 5 lengths, or he'll be completely tailed off. So
yeah,
not a horse to back each way, even if you get in 7 places.
No, win only. Or yeah, flush or bust then for Bielsa in the first time headgear to first time blinkers to see exactly how he copes with it for Andrew. Rob, you're allowed 3 as well if you want.
Well, I'm going to have 2, but like the Beacons, because I've also picked Volatile Analyst. So right. And I don't need, I don't need to go into all the reasons. You've a Volatile Analyst that as much as I can really. He
done. Nicely done.
Didn't work quite as well.
We'll give you that. We'll give you it.
But yeah, I thought what you were saying about, he has had a bit of a dismal time recently. But he did it sort of similar type of run last year. He wasn't running anywhere near his best, and then he came into this. So I thought, yeah, they might probably just gone down exactly the same route and should have him cherry ripe for this. So I thought, yeah, he was a good play at 25 to 1 or 33s at 3.65. The other one was the old boy Dakota Gold, who we all know about his York form, don't we? He absolutely loves it there. He is getting on a little bit now, but he's getting down to a good mark. And I just think it's a case of catching him right. And he has, every week I'm sounding a little bit more like Andrew Mount. I'm slowly learning, but slowly learning the tricks of the trade. But,
poor fellow.
He does run well at this time of year. I think last year he had a couple of really, really solid thirds in October, and the year before that I think he had a couple of wins. So this might be the right time of year now to catch him. And I thought he was drawn in 2, which I think will work for him. And yeah, I thought he was worth a play as well.
Yeah, like it a lot then. So all 3 of us agreeing with Volatile Analyst for one of those. Goodness me, at 33 to 1, we're all agreeing. 3-3 all around for Volatile Analyst. But Dakota Gold as well then, at a price of 12 to 1, just be nibbled in from 14s actually. In stall 2, as he'll load himself into the stalls, always last to load, and he just pops himself in. First one out then. Oh yeah, he's great, isn't he? The old boy there, Dakota Gold as well for Rob. And now our final race actually, isn't it? That we're going to be signing off with. That's scheduled anyway. The 340 at Newmarket, one of the most competitive handicaps of the flat season. The Cesarewitch. This is a heritage handicap. 4-3 odds and over 2 mile 2. Willie Mullins is chucking enough at it again to continue his very good record in this race. But Rob, back to you please to solve this year's race.
Yeah, first things first, I thought it was very disappointing that we've only got 23 runners in the Cesarewitch, and that's a sign of the time.
Yeah, I was clicking refresh on the Racing Post page, thinking, why are the other runners not loading? And I did look back. My database goes back to 1997. Only once have we had less than 30 runners, and that was 29. So
really?
Very rare not to get the full sort of 30 odd spread across the track.
Yeah, it was very, very disappointing. But Willie Mullins has still managed to find a few, hasn't he? He's got Scaramanga, which was interesting, having come from Paul Nicholls' yard last year, but bombed out in this race last year. So I think you can put a line through him. I prefer the chances of Gibraltar, who I think absolutely loves standing a challenge like this. He's won his last 2. He's just snuck in there at the bottom of the handicap, hasn't he? I think this might be a shrewd little plot from Mullins there, getting him off an absolute featherweight. So I thought he had a really good chance, and he caught my eye at 10 to 1. The other one was the 132 rated hurdler Zoffy. We know he's going to absolutely love the trip more than most. He was 3rd in that big stayers handicap at York, which was won by Alfred Butcher, who is rated, I think is in the early hundreds now. But he was staying on really that day over sort of two miles and change. And I thought the extra furlong looked right up his street that day. So that caught my eye. He gets in off 93, which probably underestimates him a little bit. Frankie's booked. Hugo Palmer. I thought that was and maybe another clue. So yeah, they were the two plays for me in this.
Yeah, I like it a lot then. So, like you say, keeping a Mullins horse on side, and Zoffy, who's just sort of been a revelation, really, hasn't he, since joining Hugo Palmer and going on the flat there. And I know that William Mullins has got enough horses in this, because I got a message this morning asking, am I free to go and ride out and lead one up then on Saturday as well? Unfortunately, I can't do it, but I'll be gutted now if the one that I was meant to lead up goes and wins now. Can I let off a Cesarewitch winner? But anyway, other work to be doing. Andrew, do you side with a Mullins horse, or where are you looking for this race?
Yeah, I did a lot of work on this race earlier in the week, because I've written Paul Keeley's column in the Racing Post Weekender this week, and I had to do sort of 800 words on sort of the main race, thereabouts on Saturday. So I sort of. And then half the horses I've mentioned are not running, because there's only 23 of them. So, but one I have come down the side on is Favourite Moon. There's very strong recent stat with German-bred horses in this race. I would have liked to have seen some more rain around, although it's quite encouraging that the official going is good watered. It's more like a jumps fixture than a flat meeting. Quite bizarre. They're watering good ground, particularly this time of year when there's a lot of dew and water retention. But you look at that Galway run a couple of runs ago, the Galway Festival, in that Premier Handicap over 2 miles, 1 furlong on soft ground behind Echoes and Rain, who of course ran so well in the Irish Cesarewitch. With the Irish Cesarewitch, they put a ridiculous amount of money into the pot for that race, which might explain why this version is not quite so competitive numerically. And then after that run, finishing 6th at 125 to 1 in a 20-runner field. He's then gone to Downpatrick, won a maiden hurdle, doing handsprings by 8 lengths. And he's only had the 4 runs now for his current yard. I just thought there might be a little bit more to come. Given his stout pedigree, his German breeding, I thought good to soft or softer would increase confidence. That's Favourite Moon. Still thought he might run well and sort of finish thereabouts. And Richard Hughes has got a couple in this race. One of them I was interested in was Bascule, who ran in the Cesarewitch trial last time out. I mean, the Cesarewitch trial has been a bit like the Arc trial, really, since its inception. It's completely pointless, and has no bearing on the big race whatsoever. Yeah. I think we did have one winner follow ups some time ago. But in that, Roginski kind of just bossed it from the front. I think the runner-up was sort of second throughout. That was the other Richard Hughes horse, Prince Imperial. But Bascule, in finishing 5th, did best of those to come from off the pace. Got the cheek pieces on for the first time. That might help, might sharpen him up a little bit. So he's 40 to 1. He could go well. And the other one wasn't on my radar earlier in the week, Rock Eagle. I did have a good look because he was 2 years ago behind Mullins' winner. Was it Great White Shark? Or,
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. So he finished 5th of 34 behind Great White Shark off a mark of 100. He's now on a mark of, I think it's 99 or 98, 97 actually. Last year, he didn't take in this race. And he's got the blinkers on for the first time, which is a very strong statistical pointer for the Rafe Beckett yard. Now, you back all his first-time blinkered runners, you'd make a fortune, first-time advisor as well. But again, a bit like we're talking about with Bielsa in that York race, they do tend to kind of win or bust. Maybe they won't handle the headgear, they'll burn themselves out early, particularly over 2 miles to finish out the back of the telly. So again, probably not an each-way horse, but the kind of horse that, you want to have a little saver on in case the blinkers do return him to the kind of form that saw him run so well in this race previously. So yeah, Favourite Moon, Bielsa. Favourite Moon, Bascule. Don't think Bielsa will stay.
It's not quite save a trip.
And Rock Eagle, 3 horses at sort of 20 to 1, 40 to 1, and 33s. That I'm just going to throw a couple of quid out.
Oh, lovely big prices though for those. Yeah, we're not complaining about any of those whatsoever. And I'm going to completely do the opposite to you and look at the head of the market than Andrew. So I'm happy that people have your options to go with those 3 big price horses all the same, because I just really like a horse with no name. Happy to be unoriginal here. I mean, despite the fact that we haven't seen her for 149 days, but I think this has been the real target then for her. She remains feasibly treated off of a mark of 96 here. She's won her last 4 flat starts, first 2 of which coming when trained by Brian Ellison to go with her bumper success prior for that yard. And after her cracking run to finish just over 1 length second behind Love Envoy at the Cheltenham Festival, she's just gone on again, reverted to the level. And she really established herself as a sayer to keep on side at York last time out. So it's a horse with no name for me, being very unoriginal, looking at the head of a market. And she has just been backed in then herself. So Andrew, back to you, please, for anything from anywhere else.
Yeah, I seem to have so many non-runners. So I mentioned doing Paul Keeley's column in the Weekender. I've lost more money backing non-runners anti-post than I have for getting paid for writing the column.
Oh, so, that's hard.
Which is, I think if they ask me again, I might have to politely decline. Now you've got the Native River Handicap over half a furlong short of 3 miles, the 2:17 at Chepstow. There was a Neil Mulholland horse that I liked originally, which isn't running, but T Clipper is going, and T Clipper is a horse. I think I napped it last season at Cheltenham Festival when he was placed in one of the handicap chases. He goes extremely well when fresh. He likes autumn and spring ground, and he's won at this meeting first time out for the last 2 seasons. Winning the sort of listed novice chase here last year, winning the silver trophy a couple of years ago. And I say last year he had wind surgery, came back in first time cheap pieces. It was the ultimate handicap chase because he ran 4th that day, ran a fair race at Aintree after that. So running fresh on goodish ground is the key to T Clipper. And hopefully he can make it 3 wins from 3 starts at this meeting. Yeah,
like I say, T Clipper, then Tom Lacey to be siding with at Chepstow.
One other as well, the 402 Masters Legacy for Philip Hobbs in this total silver trophy. He goes well fresh. First couple of runs each season, 2 wins, 2 seconds. Has had wind surgery since we last saw him. It's a bit of a concern given the Philip Hobbs quite low strike rate with first-time wind-up horses. But I'll go Masters Legacy each way in that race.
Perfect. In the 402, then Masters Legacy for Philip Hobbs. Michael Nolan taking the ride there as well for Andrew. So Andrew's gone jumping. Rob, where do you look to for any other?
Yeah, just the one for me. But without having any prices, it's hard to gauge if I'll actually have a bet. But I really like Gail Forth Meyer in the 450 at Newmarket. She's in such a lovable filly, isn't she? She's a cracking attitude. When she gets out in front, she's very, very difficult to pass. She's back in listed company, maybe a bit too hot last time in Group 3. But she's won at the course and distance over the Rolling Mile. And I like her chances in the Boadicea Stakes in the 450. So yeah, Gail Forth Meyer.
Perfect. Gail Forth Meyer then to get back to winning ways, like you say, after she was slightly disappointing then 7 days ago, but in listed company against fillies and mares, may well see her to a better effect. And now all there is left for me to do is to get your naps, please. So Rob, your nap of the weekend.
I will take Alpha Capture, please, in the Rockingham.
Like it a lot. Andrew.
Alpha Capture coming at you. I'm going to go Royal Scotsman in the Dewhurst. I've just noticed both Bet365 and Sky Bet are a 5th 1-2-3, despite the fact that it's 7 runners, and they are so Bet365's top price at 25 to 1. So yeah, sort of each way nap on Royal Scotsman, 3 places in that Grade 1 contest.
Oh, I like it a lot then. Yeah, sort of getting towards the end of the flat season. Why not just wash out the outside, and then in the Group 1 with Royal Scotsman there for Andrew. And I've kind of taken myself by surprise really with asking for the naps. So I think I'm just going to go with a horse with no name in the 340 in the Cesarewitch, another winner hopefully in this race for Nicky Henderson to kick Willie Mullins then out of the way yet again, just as he did last year with a horse with no name in the 340 at Newmarket. So that is everything from us this weekend. Best of luck with your bets. Enjoy the action, and we will speak to you again next week.